Many people spent last year's holidays alone, such as myself, and I'm sure many people will be this year as well, and I wanted to give my 2 cents. Hi, welcome back to Oh, It's Better This Way, where, oh, maybe it is better this way. About 5 tips that I want to share today about spending the holidays alone, but first I wanted to share a bit about my perspective because it may be a little bit different than what you're used to hearing. Also, by the way, Fauna's right here. As you can tell, I am petting something and oh, she's making an appearance. Yeah. So clean, but anyways, you'll see her popping in and out, obviously. An absolute queen. But let's continue. So I'm neurodivergent, and for me as a neurodivergent person, my alone time is absolutely sacred. It's the time I can truly be fully myself without fear of judgment or safety concerns. I can sort of unleash myself in a way and really live as authentically as possible. It recharges me and it makes living every single day just that much more possible for me. And then we have the holidays, which for me are really big events that sort of signify the passage of time. It's a marker every single year to see that a year has passed, essentially, which to me serves as a reminder of all of the time that I've wasted, which is kind of bleak and morbid, but I just can't help but think of that, unfortunately. I think about all of the time that I feel for one way or another that I've wasted, particularly in my teen years where I just spent a lot of time just kind of idling around and not really committing myself to anything in particular that I loved. Spending my time hating myself despite not even knowing who I am, and not committing to anything I truly enjoyed unless it had some sort of merit outside of myself, if other people deemed it worthy. There's family asking questions and then you asking yourself like, oh, why didn't I think of that sooner? Or why didn't I treat something as more important? And even though it should be a joyous time, I found myself year after year after year just having an absolute meltdown on the holidays for all of these reasons that compacted into this one day. The holiday season itself was typically enjoyable, but the holiday day itself never seemed to be. Once I hit the age of 12, every year it was really hard. So even though it should be a joyous time of year, for me, in my experience, I had a meltdown essentially every single Christmas ever since I turned 12 because it was a physical reminder every year that I was getting older and that I am spending more years full of days just forgetting what's important to me and not doing what's important to me. And that reminder always came as a shock, even though it happened every year. And that's why I'm doing things now, like really trying to intentionally do the things that I love, because this is something that I have always dealt with, essentially. But it's especially heightened during the holidays or even just big events like when I graduated, like my birthday. All of these feelings are really heightened then, and thus usually culminate in a very big meltdown that just wipes me out for at least a week usually. It's tough. It's really tough. It's a really emotionally challenging time, and I know that the holidays are a really emotionally challenging time for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. Whether you've lost someone in your life that you care about in any sort of way, whether you go through something sort of like me, or for any of the billions of other reasons that the holidays could be hard. The holidays are tough for a lot of people, despite it being a time that kind of relies on joy. And sometimes I wonder if, because the holidays are sort of perceived as a joyous time, because there's that sort of societal pressure there, that any time it sort of falls short and it doesn't meet your expectations, that just makes it worse. I sometimes wonder if that is also feeding into it, if it's not a completely 100% joyous time, if I'm then like, well, this isn't right, and then it makes me freak out, you know? I wonder how much of that is at play, but it's mainly all of the passage of time sort of vibes and feeling like I'm not doing the things that I want or need to be doing, you know? But there's really just this huge presence of loss, which I think that phrase is kind of funny to say, presence of loss. And the holidays kind of just remind you of this loss and this empty space that's sort of next to you. Fauna came back. She was in her litter box for a bit. Hi, baby. Yeah, she's making her rounds. But to have these two things, this alone time which recharges you and renews you, and the holidays which, despite being a really cheerful and joyous time culturally, can be really detrimental, and which are a moment where you go through this sort of cyclical grieving process. You have both of these things, and it's a lot to balance. They're two very different things. They're very hard to manage with each other, and they're both very strong in this time of year. And it presents its own set of challenges, really. On the one hand, being alone during the holidays can sort of give you the time and space to really take care of yourself and do whatever process you need to do to feel better during this time. But on the other hand, it can be a bit more difficult to distract yourself from the ways that you're feeling, and to distract yourself from any of the emotional gunk that sort of gets kicked up during this time when we don't have others there to distract you and to engage with you. So I have 5 tips. These obviously are not permanent fixes because this is a very challenging thing to go through, but these are some of the ways that I have in the past sort of helped ease myself along while being alone during the holidays. And this is kind of what I do to remedy all of that. And honestly, even if the holidays are typically a really great time of year for you and you just happen to be spending them alone and you're kind of worried about that, I'm sure you could take some of these and apply that as well. Just know that my perspective is fully coming from that of a neurodivergent variety, so I definitely have a very specific experience that not everything may apply to you, but I hope that you can sort of pick and choose anything out that does work for you, if anything works for you. Or I just hope that you know that you are not alone in being kind of fearful about being alone for the holidays, or you're just not alone in being alone for the holidays in general, and that there are people going through that as well and going through similar experiences as you. But yeah, so now for the tips. So my first tip is to really take stock of how you're feeling and take stock of it really often. I am very guilty of trying to ignore any feelings that sort of come up, and then of course they get all impacted together, and so the feelings get even bigger than they would have been if I had just addressed them. So really face the feelings sort of head on. That's scary to do so, but it's very well worth it. The feelings may be big and scary, but sort of parsing them out and facing them in simple, small ways gradually is going to be much more effective than just ignoring them. And I recommend that you sort of catalog your thoughts and feelings during this process in some way in order to process whatever feeling it is that you're going through, whether it's grief or whether this is a first time sort of fear that you're feeling. And continue to check in with yourself through the day, through the weeks, and make sure that you're not pushing yourself past your limits, though it can be hard to know your limits, but really just try to listen to either what your brain is telling you or the physical signals that your body is telling you. Like if you're feeling off in any way physically, like you're anxious, you aren't eating as much, stuff like that, like, oh, I'm kind of acting a little bit different, what's going on that's kind of causing that, you know? Rest is really, really important. Just make sure you keep giving yourself what you need to be functioning. Do what you need to do to fulfill your sensory needs, your basic human needs, all of those things. Make sure you're sleeping and taking physical care of yourself in every single way that is necessary. And that'll just help keep your baseline of okayness as solid as possible. That'll give you a really good foundation to be able to navigate through an emotionally stressing time. My second tip is not reinventing the wheel. None of these are reinventing the wheel, but especially not this one. But engage in your interests, in your special interests, in your hyperfixations, in your just normal hobbies, engage in them. They'll make you feel so much better, or at least just a little pinch better. Odds are, if the holidays are a tumultuous emotional time for you, it really may be hard to do anything at all. It really drains your energy. But if you even just spend just a few minutes engaging with your special interests or your hyperfixations, all these things, if you just spend a few minutes engaging with them, that might revitalize you a little bit, give you a bit more energy, and just kind of perk you up a little bit and make you feel better, because you're doing things that you like doing, so it'll make you feel a little bit better. And if you really don't have the energy to, I recommend like watching YouTube videos or TV shows or movies that are related to your special interests. That could maybe be a new fun way to sort of engage with that interest while still being a sort of passive way, so you don't have to like do anything. Like if you like knitting, it may be way too much energy to knit, but you could watch a video of someone sort of just like chatting while they knit, so you still get that sort of knitting fix. And it's sort of also a way to spend time with someone, essentially, because there's a person on your screen. My third tip is, if you have any yearly traditions, find a way to still participate in them. This could mean really fulfilling the whole tradition, but just in a solo version, or it could mean reclaiming an old tradition, or it could mean taking a bit of an old tradition and then sort of messing around with it and making it yours, like sort of creating a new tradition. And this is especially cathartic because of the routine aspect to it. I know for me, routine is very important, and breaking routine is really hard. So finding a way to take an old tradition, no matter if it's a big one or a really tiny one, and adapting it to your current situation. I know it might kind of stink that it's not the same exact thing as before, but if you can find a way to apply it to your current situation, if that's possible for you, I've found great success with that. Again, I know you might not. If changing up the specific routine is stressful for you, then obviously don't do it if it's going to stress you out. But if you think that you would be able to adapt the routine to fit your current situation, then I definitely recommend trying it. It's a great way to sort of bring some of that holiday spirit into your life as you're taking on the holidays alone. And you really just might surprise yourself. It really might be the thing that just makes your holiday, whether it's cooking, listening to music, decorating the house, getting a specific chocolate brand from the store, whatever it is. I think finding a way to implement that could be very beneficial. Number 4 is try being a little bit social if possible. Making time for the people that you love is still really important during the holidays. Being alone is, of course, really helpful for making sure you take all of the time that you need to feel your best, really. But in order to not feel the full depths of the negative parts of being alone on the holidays, it's still really important to engage with people in some way. And that, of course, doesn't mean, oh, I'm gonna drop everything and I won't actually be alone for the holidays. I'm going to go somewhere and be physically with people. It doesn't need to mean that by any means. It could mean FaceTiming your family as they open presents or eat dinner. It could mean FaceTiming your friends to chat with them and all of that. It doesn't even need to mean FaceTiming. It could mean texting the people that you care about them, and just talking to them about their day and talking to them about your day and all of that. Or it could even just be sending a meme, you know? But no matter what it is, I think finding a way to be social, even if it's in the tiniest way you could possibly manage, I think that that does a lot in the long run. Because being physically alone for the holidays, yeah, that's tough. But being like really truly alone and being isolated, you don't need to be alone for the holidays and be isolated if that's not beneficial to you. You could even use these social moments to, as I said in the last one, to keep up those holiday traditions. You never know. And my last tip is to find a way to make this time of year special for yourself. A little bit of novelty goes a really, really long way. Maybe this means getting yourself a special gift you've been wanting, or going to a new shop that has to do with your interests, or going to a bakery or a restaurant and picking up your favorite food or something like that, just because you want to. Maybe it means watching a new movie that has to do with your special interests, or baking something, or it could really mean anything. It could be big or small, or even just changing up the scenery by going on a walk to the park. It doesn't need to be a big thing. It could be small. It doesn't need to be a thing you spend money on. It could be, but it could be a free thing that you do, of just simply going somewhere. The act of just changing your environment is so helpful. And who knows, maybe you could wind up accidentally creating a whole new tradition for yourself every single year. But just as long as you're finding a way to make this time of year special for yourself and give yourself a moment of novelty that maybe doesn't happen every single day, giving yourself those moments is really just going to bring so much joy into this season for you. And that's really all that Fauna and I have for you today. I don't think you can really see her right now, but she is still just right here eating some hay that's on the floor. But I'd love to hear all about how you make the holidays enjoyable for yourself. I think it's really all about just moving through this time of year as intentionally as possible and doing everything in your power to do what you need to do to really take care of yourself and make sure that you're feeling okay, no matter what that means for you. But thank you so much for hanging out with me. It's been a pleasure. I'm happy to share my experiences, and I'd love to hear about your experiences because I'm sure they are very different from mine. I hope that you got something out of this, whether you think a tip might be useful, even just as a reminder to take care of yourself, or that you found some comfort in just spending some time with me as I talk to you. I really appreciate you being here, and I hope you're having as happy of a time as you possibly can be. And if you're not, I hope your tomorrow is better. But thank you so much. Thanks for hanging, and bye.